The 53rd chapter of the book of Isaiah intricately details the underlying theological framework of a suffering servant. The text constructs a precise mechanism of substitutionary suffering, establishing exactly how one individual absorbs the penalties incurred by others. New Testament authors meticulously mapped this prophetic blueprint directly onto the historical trials and execution of Jesus of Nazareth. To understand how this operates, we will examine chapter 53, verses 4 through 7, and trace their direct links to the historical record. These passages function as a literal, interlocking legal and theological model that demanded specific execution in history. We begin with Isaiah chapter 53, verse 4. "Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted." The servant acts as a vessel, internalizing both the physical pain and the spiritual sorrow of the collective populace. Observers witnessed this severe affliction and incorrectly deduced that it was a sign of divine punishment for his own actions. The New Testament record in Matthew chapter 26 links this internal absorption directly to Christ's agony in the Garden of Gethsemane. In Gethsemane, Christ articulated this exact condition, stating his soul was exceeding sorrowful, even unto death, proving the fulfillment of the parameter to carry collective sorrows. The first phase of the servant's mission required the solitary, agonizing absorption of collective grief, establishing the necessary conditions for physical substitution. Moving from internal affliction, we can observe the actual mechanism of substitution. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 5. "But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed." This animated schematic illustrates the substitutionary mechanism. The terms wounded and bruised signify the severe physical toll exacted to process incoming transgressions. As the burden is absorbed, the mechanism produces the chastisement of our peace, a spiritual and political appeasement. The historical counterpart to this structural requirement is documented in the Gospel of John, chapter 11, during the council of the high priest Caiaphas. Assessing the political tension with Rome, Caiaphas declared that it was expedient for one man to die for the people, so the whole nation would not perish. The supreme judicial authority of Judea inadvertently required and validated the exact substitutionary parameters established centuries earlier by Isaiah. The text then shifts focus to the collective nature of the transgression. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 6. "All we, like sheep, have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all." The author deliberately uses agricultural imagery to communicate human rebellion against divine law, grounding the text in the realities of pastoral life and the vulnerability of a wandering flock. The phrase, "turned every one to his own way," defines this moral failure as an individual, decentralized deviation. The divine countermeasure to this massive, decentralized iniquity is to consolidate it entirely onto the shoulders of the singular servant. Comprehending the scale of this consolidated burden is prerequisite to understanding the servant's specific reaction during his subsequent trial. That reaction occurs under extreme duress in the judicial phase. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 7. "He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he openeth not his mouth." The direct comparison to a sacrificial lamb hinges specifically on the total absence of self-defense or vocal protest. This prophecy maps directly to the ecclesiastical trial before Caiaphas, documented in Matthew chapter 26. False witnesses were brought forward, presenting completely baseless accusations against Jesus to secure a conviction. Despite intense pressure from the high priest to mount a legal defense, the scriptural record states simply that Jesus held his peace. This silence functioned on two levels. It demonstrated innocence by refusing to engage with contradictory lies, and it showed absolute willing submission to the divine framework. By refusing to speak, Christ secured the ecclesiastical judgment required to initiate the physical atonement, effectively closing the prophetic loop. The exegetical investigation reveals a tightly bound structure. The servant bears the massive consolidated iniquity of a wandering people. He endures severe physical and spiritual trauma explicitly as a substitute for that collective guilt. The prophetic requirement of absolute silence is fulfilled precisely during the high priest's trial. These separate elements interlock to form a complete, executed mechanism of substitutionary atonement in history. This concludes our overview.